Once again, we have arrived at a conclusion that I feel requires a little manifestation about what's really going on here. What's up, Matrix 47? Yeah, so this time we're not gonna deal with the theatrics. Obviously, y'all see what it is: fact versus fiction. What promoted me to make this video is in modern times, as we think about the future, as we think more futuristic, so to speak, one of the main things, what's up, love and light? One of the main things is artificial intelligence and robots. The reason I feel it's necessary to explain and lay the foundation as to why that's considered futuristic is so that we don't get caught into the fixation of what we deem futuristic, especially when it comes to the image that's being portrayed to us. Let me explain this in a different way. There is nothing about a robot or artificial intelligence that leads you to the conclusion that this deals with anything futuristic. On the surface, it seems that way, where everyone can have a robot in their home and to, commands, do things for you, so on and so forth. It's like I guess, a living computer. I guess it wouldn't be breathing, but you have a living automated computer, whatever. I guess for most people that may be interesting. Most people are fixated with gadgets and the next this, the next that. Totally fine. You make your own money, you can buy whatever you choose to afford or what you can afford, you know. So this is not to downplay electronics, but what's being missed is we are the ultimate computers. We are the ultimate intelligence. The fact that they have to deal with artificial intelligence and the fact that they have to deal with robots, completely neglecting the humans, you can see where the mentality is and why it doesn't suit you. Let me go further. Shouldn't the future consist of the people, upgrading the people mentally, physically, spiritually? But you don't really hear this a part of the conversation when we think about the future. We don't have, you can say, universities or fraternities set up to help people access their divinity. Yes, you have religion. Yes, you have various ways of life. But they may or may not deal with futuristic concepts. They may still be dealing with the ancient script, the ancient law, so on and so forth. Again, to each his own. But when it comes to us and when it comes to where we are heading, when we are the original intelligence that is void or flawed or flawless, it really depends on how you want to look at it, because there's two different ways. You could look at yourself as an imperfect human being, or you can look at yourself as a perfect human being. What is the difference? Most people look at themselves as imperfect, which promotes us to go in the realm or go in the direction of artificial intelligence because we lack in certain capacities. That's why the whole conversation of the artificial intelligence robots, because somehow we lack in something. So a robot or some type of artificial intelligence has to help us to understand. This is the mentality. However, if you subscribe to the philosophy or the mentality of we are already perfect, we just have to be in tune to the law. For example, we know that the body naturally heals itself. So if the body is connected to the law promotes healing in all things. So if the law promotes healing, the law promotes intelligence, the law promotes expansion, where does robots and artificial intelligence come into the picture? Let's take it a step further. If we go even further back to times of Atlantis, times of Lemuria, you can say the most futuristic civilizations ever. Because we have Egypt, you can go look at the Sphinx, you can go look at the pyramids. But when we look at Atlantis or Lemuria, for those who may not be familiar, I suggest you do your research so that you can have a foundation of the differences between, let's just say, Atlantean civilization, Lemurian civilization, and Egyptian civilization or Kemetic civilization, so that you can understand the various degrees of intelligence. Intelligence. Living intelligence promotes civilization. Living intelligence promotes scientific expansion to equate with spirituality, which is what alchemy is, magic, science. So why am I bringing all this up? I bring all this up to say that as much as I speak about 2020, as much as I speak about the future, as much as I speak about alchemy, as much as I speak about the underworld, the underground, law of attraction, new age, as much as I speak about the various things that have been covered on this channel, you don't really hear me speaking about robots or artificial intelligence. The reason that is, besides what has already been laid down, is that is a concept within people's minds that is not rooted in fact, it's rooted in fiction. The future doesn't need robots. I guess one of the first movies that dealt with robots, I believe, in the 21st century at least, was I, Robot. I believe that came out maybe about 2001. And obviously it's like 20 years now. But this is the mentality of the 20th century, thinking about where will we be in the 21st century? Of course, robots, artificial intelligence, self-driving cars, so on and so forth. Everything is just, everybody has chips in their hand or arm or forehead, whatever, mark of the beast, so on and so forth. Everybody is technically cybernetic. And this is the second part of the conversation, because there is a difference between being cybernetic and being artificial. I believe if you study the movie I, Robot, the main character had like a robotic arm, if I'm recalling correctly. So he was a certain percentage of who he was cybernetic. The difference between artificial and cybernetic is cybernetic can expand you. Cybernetic is having a cell phone. Cybernetic is being able to live stream to the entire world via the internet, so on and so forth. Now, these tools that we utilize on a daily basis to connect with each other and to spread information. Now, you can say those systems such as Facebook, such as Instagram, such as YouTube, for those who are in the know, they deal with artificial intelligence or algorithms, which regulates, their search results, so on and so forth. Anybody who knows the behind the scenes of these multimedia companies understand where I'm going. So they deal with artificial intelligence. They deal with a robot essentially regulating their sites, because it's just too much going on for a human to be able to keep up with. You can have a room full of people trying to regulate things, and they couldn't keep up. You couldn't hire enough people to keep up with the amount of data and information being uploaded to the internet. So it's understood that their thinking is it's humanly impossible to manage all of this information. So we have to create some type of robot or some type of bot to regulate this for us, because it's not within the hands of human beings. Now, that thinking is rooted in fact, where it's not humanly possible to regulate what goes on the internet because things are just moving too fast. That is a fact. However, to think that this artificial intelligence, because again, for those in the know, it has to learn. Artificial intelligence has to learn. It's not something that you can build perfect because it's not a human being. So it has to go through various stages of trial and error. So while the artificial intelligence is going through its phases of trial and error in real time, this is why many mistakes are made. There's no way for it to be 100% accurate. So you still need a human being to verify what the artificial intelligence is doing. And you also need a human to program the artificial intelligence. So we are going in a direction of people feel that they need to plant their consciousness into some type of artificial intelligence in order to advance themselves because a computer can think faster, a computer can accomplish more tasks, especially of a mental plane, or like figuring out algorithms, equations, so on and so forth. Like the speed a computer can go versus a human being, there is a vast separation there. So because we are in a cybernetic world, remember there's a difference between artificial and cybernetic. You can say Atlantis and Lemuria were cybernetic, not artificial, cybernetic. These were cybernetic civilizations where they had advanced technology, but it was still based upon reality. It was based upon us. It was based upon you, me. What do I mean? If you needed a torch, if you needed a light, there was technology available through the use of crystals, energy grids, so on and so forth. The similar technology to build pyramids and all that divine science. There was a way for you to just place your hand on a object and it lights up. Just the heat and the electricity from the body would be the battery, meaning you are your own battery. So when you pick up this thing, it lights up because you are the battery versus you have to constantly buy battery after battery after battery after battery, which is what has to be done with these artificial intelligence. If you really knew how much money is being invested into this artificial intelligence, it would be ridiculous. So we don't have to get into the numbers. But going back to the point, there exists within us the technology and the intelligence to do what we have always done, which is to be cybernetic, to utilize the tools of the earth to expand our consciousness. No problem with that. But it was never thought to replace the human with a robot, which is the main conversations now. Especially with places like Walmart, places like McDonald's, they want to put artificial intelligence to replace the employees. So your order can be taken artificially and it can be given artificially. That's where they're going so that they can cut out the employees. So what or where does this lead? Now, a lot of people are not going to really have jobs because everything can be done by a robot. Not everything. A lot of things, not everything. So it completely shifts things, right? Things become like this. This is why in today's times things are like this. Companies are rising and falling all the time. Like the level of stability in the world of today's times, 2020, 21st century, is null and void. There's really no such thing as stability when it comes to everything with the internet and the artificial intelligence because it's always learning and it's always changing and morphing and doing this and doing that. So there's no level of stability. However, when you deal with the human being, all you have is stability. All you have is mathematics. All you have is magnetism, electricity, ether, light, solid, liquid, gases. That's what the body is made of. I'll say it one more time. Magnetism, electricity, ether, light, solid, liquid, gas. That's what we are composed of. Period. And the law regulates those attributes of magnetism, electricity, ether, light, solid, liquids, gases. All those attributes, all of those degrees are controlled by the law. So we are the living manifestation of the law. And because we are the living manifestation of the law, there is nothing more supreme than a human being. Not even artificial intelligence, because even that has to be created by humans. So humans in today's times are trying to create something that is more advanced than themselves. That whole concept, again, to think that you are flawed and there is going to be some type of thing that you can build with your hands to solve the flawed nature of humans is asinine. Yet, this is the reality we live in. We live in a very strange world. So it's not supposed to make sense. I think that would ease a lot of hearts to know that we are not in a world that's supposed to make sense. We are not in times that it's supposed to be comfortable. We are not in times that's supposed to be stable. We are in times of various fluctuations in nature. Things are becoming more hyper based or hyper dimensional, multi dimensional. Parallel universes are becoming more prevalent. The multiverse or the multiverse. But we've always been talking about this since comic books. The multiverse, parallel universes. The science has always been documented and preserved in many different forms, which is why I say alchemy is the most versatile because it can be preserved in any way of life. So, to wrap things up here, the point that I wanted to bring is fact versus fiction. We are the fact. We are the supreme. Fiction is thinking that you can create something better than a human being, which is not impossible, but trial and error, because we have to be patient. This world is still young. We are in the new aeon. So we're dealing with people who are not really going to understand ancient concepts. Why? Because in their mind, they are the first people here. So because in their mind, they are the first people here, they're going to do whatever they want. And they have to know for themselves. They're not satisfied with reading ancient texts or preserving some type of law. They feel that they have to rewrite everything and reinvent everything that's suitable to their way of life. And again, this rewriting of history most likely does not suit you because you are based in fact. You are not based in fiction. So we live in a very strange world that tries to twist and mold things. That makes sense on the surface, but the more and more you peel the layers back, you begin to see they're going through all of this trouble just to perfect a flaw, which was never flawed to begin with. And because of that reason, there's no way for that to be successful. You're not going to ever make a better human being. There's no way to be successful in these endeavors. So what do we do? So for those who understand this, what do we do? This is why it is imperative that you expand your psychic senses naturally. Because when you expand your psychic centers naturally, there is no artificial intelligence that will be more supreme than you. And there would be nothing in your mind to make you believe that that is so. That a world full of robots is better than a world full of human beings who may be emotional, who may be cardinal, who may be ignorant, but yet they represent the law which is greater than what you see. Because they represent the law that's greater than what you see. When you focus upon the law and not the human being, you see it for what it really is. We know how the brain works. The brain is generating images and we are perceiving these images. The brain also filters out information that it feels that's not necessary to be in your atmosphere. Meaning, again, there's many things that hit the brain through the eyes. but everything doesn't register. If you don't have a word for something, it doesn't register. So if you walk past something, you don't know what it is, it doesn't register. But if you know exactly what it is, it registers. So it's really not about whether that thing is there or not there. It's all about what is registering to your brain and what is not. What filter has been established in the brain to regulate the information that's being received? Because that filter will determine your reality. Your reality is determined upon the filter that you have built for yourself to make things valuable and other things not valuable, which can be different for every single different person, which can be different for every different person. It's another way to say that, right? It can be different for everyone because obviously we are not the same people. The law shows variety in nature. The law shows variety in people. The law shows a variety in all things animals, plants, herbs, trees. We see variety everywhere. When you look at a robot, how much variety will you truly get? Because when you look at a human being is capable of evolving on their own versus a robot. If they start receiving their updates, they become outdated. Us, on the other hand, we are constantly being updated naturally. You don't really have to think about it. This is why we study. You intake knowledge, not information. There's a difference between information and knowledge. Information is scattered, knowledge is more solidified. When you intake in knowledge, when you read, when you study, when you go through trial and error, you're changing your filtration system. This is why you go through what you go through. This is why we are not afraid to experience hardship because the purpose is to change the filtration system in the brain. Because if you can manipulate what the brain filters, you will start to perceive different things in reality. There are people that you simply don't see, not because they're not there, but because they don't register. Now, a person may ask, how can that be? How can people be walking right past me and I don't see them? I have physical eyes, nothing wrong with my eyes. Sound, energy, vibration, or sound frequency vibration, if that makes more sense. Sound frequency vibration. We've all heard that before, but that is the answer. How? You can be right in front of a person and not see them because your energy levels don't match. Now, of course, this may be a little hard to grasp, but when you start to study parallel universes where there are various things happening all at once, then this will make more sense. So, yes, parallel realities cross, right? Crossroads, right? Parallel realities cross. So, there is always parallel realities crossing. This is what the crossroads represents. When we hear about the crossroads, it just means parallel realities crossing over. That's all it means. So, right, there can be people standing right in front of you and you not see them. Period. Some people don't see you. You think you're as solid as you perceive in your mind just because it feels solid? There are people that don't see you either. You can be right in front of them. They don't see you. It all is a energy thing. So when we understand that, this is how things like the law of attraction, manifestation, all this new age information, you have to put it into a context for it to make sense. Because put in that context to make sense, some people are seen, some people are not seen. The people that are seen are able to be seen because of the filtration system that I've set up for myself. The people that are not able to be seen is also due to the filtration system that I set up for myself, consciously or unconsciously. For most of us, it was unconscious and it seeped into the subconscious mind before we even knew who and what we was in our childhood. So a lot of this filtration system was established in childhood. So when you become an adult, You still have this same filtration system. Most people never really go beyond that filtration system. But those of us who are the alchemists, the occultists, the Gnostics, the Sufis, the witches, the warlocks, the underworld angels, it's a little different because you are not who you were born to be. You are who you was created to be. So there's a difference between creation and being born. We all were born in a physical vessel, but everyone doesn't create themselves from the nothingness. To create yourself from the nothingness, you must completely restart who and what you think you are. Everything must be reset. You must begin completely anew. Forget who you think you are. Know who you really are. Because when you know who you really are, you stop caring about who you thought you were, your government name, you know what I mean? People that you've known all your life, like that just becomes secondary instead of primary because you start to create who and what you are beyond the scope of what's possible. Because what makes something possible or impossible is not based on physics, it's based on mental capacity. How much energy can you contain in your brain? How much energy can you contain in your brain? That determines how far you can see, how vast your visualization is. As they say, you can't do it if you can't envision it, right? It can't be done if you can't envision it. So obviously, we have to be able to create imagery in our mind, which is a divine science. We start off with shapes, and those shapes become more and more complex. Then those shapes become forms. Those forms become cities, you know, I mean, sculptures, so on and so forth. So you have a whole civilization right before your eyes. All this can be done mentally because it was set up to do it. Not that we're trying to hack into something hidden. We were born, we were given the ability, we were given the gift to be able to perform these acts, to be natural, not artificial. So anything artificial is taking you away from your naturality. And your naturality your naturality is not something that is just, how do I say this? It's a weird dynamic, right? Because a lot of people who consider themselves natural, they really connect to the earth, right? Natural foods, natural products, all this stuff, right? Most people who consider themselves to be natural are associating themselves with the earth. We're going to use natural products from the earth. We're going to eat natural things from the earth. We're not eating anything synthetic. We're not putting nothing synthetic on our body, so on and so forth. You start to develop a deeper connection with the earth. Most of the time, though, people who are natural, if you ask them about futuristic things, again, about things of this nature, their minds may not really go in this direction. Again, not to say that they are not intelligent, but they don't really coexist. Artificial intelligence and living a natural life doesn't really coexist. So most people in the natural reality don't really involve themselves in this reality because they really don't coexist. However, put in the proper context, as we have just did, we can see how the natural and the cybernetic, not the artificial, the cybernetic. Natural and cybernetic go hand in hand. Natural and artificial does not. Once again, cybernetic is extending yourself. Where because you have a cell phone in your pocket, you have access to all information in the world. There's nothing you don't know. There's nothing you don't know. Whatever you don't know, you can find out instantly. That's what it means to have a phone, a computer, a laptop, all meaning you have access to all information. But remember, information is just information. Information is not knowledge. Information is not power. That information or that data must be turned or alchemically designed to knowledge. That knowledge must then be alchemically designed to power. The process is the same. So we have a lot of people with information, and they're taking this information as fact. And we see why we are in times where you're like, oh, it's 2020, and the best thing we got to talk about is artificial intelligence and robots, and to the point where can you have sex with robots? And this is a conversation that's being had. Are robots gender based? Not. It's like, yo, this we are cybernetic consciousness. We are androgynous. We are the ultimate form of alchemy. Why? Because at any given moment, you can make up in your mind to be whatever you want, and there's nothing stopping you from doing that. There's nothing that's going to stop you from being the alchemist, the occultist, the Gnostic, the gypsy, the magi, the astrologer. Nothing stopping you other than the filter system that has been established. Some people call this religion. No, I grew up in a certain religion, so it built up a certain filter system. So it has to, most people try to destroy the filtration system. Oh, you're a Christian, whatever. Destroy that. Come over here with this new age, or come over here with this. And it's not about that. You have to have enough intelligence to know that everything is connected to everything else. So, for example, and this would be the last thing, if your filtration system was regulated by religion, even after you abandon the religion, you still have that filtration process. However, instead of destroying the filtration process, you seek to understand it more in depth. The difference between Christianity and Gnosticism. Gnosticism is just more in depth. It goes beyond the people, places, and things, and it goes into the actual science of things. You stop looking at things from human eyes and you start visualizing with the third eye and seeing the concepts for what they really are, not for what they appear to be. Man, boats, miracles, Jesus, Moses. You go beyond that, whether it happened or didn't happen. You go beyond that. You start to study, well, what are the alchemical principles here? Because they're there. What are the alchemical principles here? Because if I can discover the alchemical principles, then I know alchemy has something to do with me, and I can apply those alchemical principles to my lifestyle. I can apply alchemical principles to my lifestyles because I am the ultimate symbol of alchemy. I am the ultimate alchemist. We were set up to be this way. It's not because I'm saying it. The human body was set up to be the ultimate alchemical vessel. I remember like the first time I said this back in 2016. I remember saying the body is a laboratory. The body is a laboratory. And because the body is a laboratory, that means depending on what you feed it, physically, mentally, and spiritually, you will have chemical reactions based upon how you regulate your laboratory. What type of tests are you conducting? It's as simple as that. And are you taking notes? Are you building up an index of original thought? That's the main thing. It's deeper than trial and error. Are you building up an index of original thought? Because as you do your alchemical experiments, you're going to discover information that most people may not know. You will make discoveries if you commit yourself. They must be documented because you're not trying to put it in the back of your mind and expect yourself to remember everything. You may remember the overall concept, but you may not remember the intricate details. But those are most important, those intricate details that you may not really remember, but you wrote it down. And because you wrote it down, it remains solidified, as opposed to it's something that you either remember or you don't remember. So, building up your index of original thought, because the body is a laboratory and you're constantly conducting alchemical what experiments on a daily basis, whether it be in the form of a mantra, in the form of meditation, in the form of yoga, in the form of whatever it is that you do. This is, again, it's not about what the right thing to do is. It's just about doing something and building up an index of original thought and original ideas because you have your own personal experience. So your experience matters. Your values matter. Your information matters. Not necessarily because it could potentially help someone else, but because it can help you first and foremost. Then, when you manifest the help that you have received, then you can, introduce other people to it. But before we even get into anyone else, your body is a laboratory. You have to conduct experiments on a daily basis. Build up an index of original thoughts and original ideas. Once you build up your index of original thoughts and original ideas, then when you go back and reflect on your experimentation, let's just say you have a 30-day experiment. You're going to conduct a 30-day experiment. Every day you're taking notes. So at the end of those 30 days, you're now going to reflect on everything that you have been documenting. And it's guaranteed that everything that you documented, you're not going to remember every single thing in your mind. So imagine if you didn't write it down. It would, you would be approaching it half, I want to say half-ass and all this stuff. Anyway, y'all know what I mean. Therefore, so I'm looking around, let me see, because you know why? It's no point in me speaking about this stuff if I'm not doing it right. Why speak if you don't have any results? All right, let's see about some results, right? Let's see what we got over here. All right. These are 2 notebooks. These are my most recent notebooks, right? These are not my entire index, because I have 10 years worth of notes, meaning I have been documenting my entire spiritual experience since I was 18 years old. I had my original notebook back from when I was 18, when I was taking my very first notes, which is like astrology, signs, and the attributes and their modalities. I still have that because I've been documenting, because these things are important. So let's just take this, right? Regular. But once you open this up, right, you can, this is $2 or something like that. $2. But what's contained within this $2 notebook is infinite. You can't put a price on it, all right? This is just a blank page, all right? This is just a blank page. But when I turn, let's do it like this. Let's do it like this. Some stuff here. Again, don't worry about reading it. This is basically, when I work with the spirits, this is a conversation. Just letting y'all know, it's crazy, right? Conversations. Information that you can't get out of books. Conversations. 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 Diagrams. This is what I'm talking about, diagrams. This comes from working with spirits, doing personal experimentation. The information contained in this is not documented nowhere else because it's my experience. So unless I publish these works, they don't exist outside of this. So this regular $2 notebook, with my pen has made it gold. Lead has become gold. Something that anybody can buy. Anybody can buy a writing utensil. But when you activate that secret science of scribing, now lead has become gold. Now you have something in your possession that is vibrating on a golden frequency because it's original information. Nowhere else on the planet outside of your head. This is why you document. You document because there is no other way for you to get it. Don't expect no one else to tell you. Don't expect the book to reveal it. You have to create your own book, create your own notes. Let me show you something else, though. That's just one. Here's another one. It's just like tobacco. You know, I stay with the plants and the herbs. Because obviously, you know, you have to have the roots of the herb. The ultimate technology is nature, for those who don't know. Anyway, so we see here, these are sigils, right? Sigils, I even got notes on napkins when there's nothing to, there we go, right? Sometimes I don't have a pad. I grab anything, document. Just pieces of paper. Feng Shui. This is when I start to do my Feng Shui about which directions work for me and which directions do not. The whole thing. But anyway, this is just random notes. This is a notebook though. The blank page. This is lead. Alright? Anybody can buy this. And I see your question. I will answer that in just a second. Let me just show a couple pages of this notebook. So this notebook that can be bought anywhere by anybody, as long as you have the necessary resources. This is lead. But what makes this golden, right? Just like we saw at the other notebook. There's nothing here. But, oh wow. Conversations. I'm just showing y'all that I'm not just speaking. I'm documenting this. I have enough notes to write books, multiple books, which I may do one day, but I'm showing you that this is conversations, original information. All right? So I'm not just doing things and I'm not documenting. Every single day I'm documenting. Every single day, something is getting documented on a daily basis. Even now, even with me creating this YouTube video is an extension of me documenting something, right? Documentation, personal documentation, so that when you compare notes from other scientists, from other mathematicians, from other scholars, compare it with your own notes, with your own experience. Does it match up to your own experience? Then you know whether it's something for you or not. What matches up with your own experience, right? What's matching up with your own experience? Because it should be documented, right? What matches up with your documentation? Because if it don't match up with this, especially if you're documenting on a daily basis, look at this, you know what I mean? Like, it's half of this is up. Anyway, I'm just giving y'all the visuals that I'm always documenting, and it may be for a book one day, or it may just be my book of life, my life journey that I can give to my son. That's what it would be about before anything else. I'm like, yo, here's my entire life documented, but it's not in story form. It's in the form of an alchemical work. Imagine that. Some people give their legacy millions of dollars, right? I'm like, yo, I'm gonna give my book of life. Like, yo, this is however long I live. This is all of the information you will ever need, because I took time to document it. So, but besides making YouTube videos and all this stuff, I'm documenting something for a legacy, something that is right and exact, something that I have observed with my eyes, that comes directly from my heart in conversations. Tell me what's more valuable than that. But let me answer these questions before we check out. Right? Okay, where we at? In your opinion, is everything going to get better like everyone, or depending on their mindset, will the system get better? People will continue to evolve. The system will continue to change. As we, laws change on a daily basis. Laws change every single day. People change every single day. Change is like the first law of the universe. Of course, the first law is a law of mentalism, but change is necessary. So if you're asking, will change occur? Absolutely. Change will continue to occur. Now, if you are asking if it will get better in the sense of would the world become a better place, I feel the world is a beautiful place already. If you have done the work, if you have done the work, you can see the beauty. Even with the hardship, you don't even see it as hardship. You can look at people homeless and not feel guilty, not feel pity, not feel bad about their situation, wish that they was somewhere else. Many people see people in those type of situations and feel in their heart. However, those of us who really know what's going on, those of us who have actually interacted with these people, been side by side with these people, see, there's a difference when you see it from the outside looking in. When you're standing in the window looking into the house, it's a difference. It's a difference when you're in the house and you see everything. You see everything that's going on from a center point. See, most people are afraid to go inside of those chambers. They may look, they may observe, and they make their conclusions based on their observations. But very few people actually go inside of those chambers, go inside of those doors. It's the same thing with the mind. Most people have not explored their own mind. We're not talking about anyone else's mind. Most people have not even explored their own mind, their own attributes, their own abilities, because it's unseen. It's not dealing with this. But if you're strictly of this world, then these things are not relevant because they're not tangible, at least at first. Remember, before something is matter, it must be sound. Before you see, you must hear. So would the world get better? I feel the world is perfect already if you do the work. If you do the work, the world is perfect. It's not that anything changes. Will there always be people struggling? Absolutely. But you change your reaction towards it. And that's what matters. You change how you react to pain and suffering and strife. Your reaction changes so that it doesn't disturb your equilibrium. Because again, we know that we can't help everybody out here. You will go broke trying to help everyone. But you will get rich helping yourself. See, I guess people don't really talk about that, right? But anyway, self. As you evolve, as you get better, as you go deeper into your mental chambers, life will become better for you because you're putting in the work. So that's what it is now. Are we going to, on a collective level, are things going to get better? If enough people do the work, absolutely. But does that negate strangeness? No, because there will always be strangeness here, right? There will always be strangeness, but that's a part of life. So we change how we react to life because we understand it. The more you understand it, the more you don't develop this don't care mentality. You really develop compassion. Because compassion isn't getting out of your car and hugging somebody who needs $1. Compassion is you understand their plight. You understand, that's a Gnostic. That's someone who didn't accept this world. That's someone who didn't accept this system. That's someone who didn't want to work at a job for 30 years. That's just someone who just wanted to get high as they fucking can and exit out this motherfucker. So be it. So be it. What's wrong with that? So this is what I mean. You just change your outlook on things. So anyone who suffers, you understand that we have the right to suffer if we want. It may hurt us. Of course, who wants to see suffering? But we must understand that we have to change our reactions. Suffering shouldn't make us feel compelled to do anything because we understand the law. Okay. Let me see. What are your thoughts on orbs as a representation of the presence of spirits? And I think that there's a part two to this. I asked about the orbs because right when you said you will not find this information published anywhere because it is mine, right then an orb showed up behind your right, my imagination. No, if you got the sight, you can see. If you got the eyes, if you got the magic eyes, you can see more than what most people see. So no, it's not your imagination. You can say it's your, no, it's just my imagination. But the imagination is an extension of the third eye. You know what I mean? So this is what I mean. For those, there's various dimensions and degrees of sight. Everybody isn't clairvoyant, but everybody is clairvoyant. But there's various degrees. That's what that means. So that's what I mean by that is we can say, oh, everybody isn't clairvoyant, everybody isn't clairaudient, but we actually all are to various degrees. So if your clairvoyance is heightened to the point where you can see more than the third dimension, so you're just seeing visuals of the fourth dimension, maybe even the fifth dimension. You're seeing visuals of various dimensions, and that's why I said earlier, in this very room, there's a whole different reality going on that is not being perceived. So yes, you may catch glimpses of alternative realities because they occupy the same space. You can say this location that I'm in 4D or 5D, it's a whole different civilization, a whole different reality, occupying the same space. But it's just various degrees, parallel realities. So when you see those things like orbs, spirits, you're just glancing into various dimensions and parallel realities are crossing, as I explained earlier. So what you see is real, but you must make understanding of it. You have to develop, like, okay, well, what does all this mean? This is why we study, so that you can, a lot of people see many things, but they just don't know what it is. They just don't know. They can't put their hands on it. Like, what the fuck is that? I just saw an orb. What the fuck does that mean? I just saw a spirit in the corner. What the fuck does that mean? Or I just saw Baron Insomnia. What the fuck does that mean? So a lot of people are at that stage. What the fuck does that mean? As they should be. It sparks your curiosity to study. So when you discover, like, oh, I remember when I saw that. Oh, that's what that was. Oh, when I saw that, that's what Baron Insomnia is. For those who may not know, they may not have even known what that is. That's why we study mythology and all that, so that there's various deities communicating with you. But if you can't identify with them, you see, it's like, oh, I remember when I saw that. It was communicating with me. Later on, you realize that, oh, that was Baron Insomnia, or that was Papa Gete, whoever it was. Now you can build up that communication. Now you start working with that spirit. You're like, okay, I see what that was. But it takes time to get to that process. You may not be able to do it like that until you get to a point where you have put that work in, laid it down for real, so you can identify things instantaneously. You just become quicker in your ability to identify what's what. It gets quicker. But that's with study, that's with practice, that's with experimentation. The body is a laboratory. So experiment and study. No. Okay. One more question. Tell me more about the ego and how to understand and or handle it. The ego is necessary. The ego is what keeps you alive. The ego is what tells you not to walk in the street when cars are coming. The ego is designed to protect our well-being. On the opposite end of that, the ego is very childish because it can't really see outside of protecting your life. Self-preservation, you can say, right? The first law of nature, self-preservation, that's basically ego. So the ego is seeking to preserve your life. So the ego, constantly in this mentality of preserving life, this is why it becomes something like what we know the ego to be as, like someone who's ignorant. They're full of themselves, full of shit, all that stuff, right? Well, we need to destroy the ego or tame the ego. When you put the ego to sleep, or when you put the conscious mind to sleep, that's essentially what we are doing when we do this alchemical work. You put the ego to sleep. You don't destroy it. it's still there. Again, this we go back to the root. You tame it, just like the Sphinx. What does the Sphinx tell you? See the man's head or the woman's head. It may be an androgynous being. Who knows? With the animal body. Tame the ego. Don't kill it. Tame it. When you tame it, then you work your magic through the subconscious. Work your magic through the subconscious only after taming the conscious mind or the ego. How do you tame it? That's with things like meditation, yoga, exercise, all these physical activities. Mental is just more concentration. Can you concentrate on a single point on your wall for 60 minutes? Build your concentration up. The ego doesn't like to be still. The ego is like this. So when you do this, remember when you look at something like behind, okay, not behind me, let's just say somewhere outside of the camera lens is waves. When you're not observing something, it's waves. Things become particles when you place your attention on it, right? We understand that. So the particles, when we look at a dot, you can draw a black dot on your white wall and just meditate on it for an hour. The ego doesn't like standing still, so 10, 15 minutes in, it goes to sleep. Like, oh, we're not doing anything, it just goes to sleep. Then that mind that is still awake when the ego goes to sleep, that's the magic mind or the supernatural mind. That's the mind that you work your magic through. But you got to put the ego to sleep, not because it's more powerful, because it's just all about self-preservation. So the ego is not an enemy. The ego is just like your lower self that turn on and turn off as you desire. That's all it is. So when you are ready to get into more serious work, then you have to shut the ego off. At some point, especially like when you start dreaming and you start seeing scary shit, most people see it's a lot of scary shit in their dreams because your ego hasn't been turned off. Your ego is like, oh, this is scary. I need to run. I need to, fight. That's the ego doing all that. But you carried it into the dream. When you are able to, as they say, sleep but stay awoke, conscious mind sleep, subconscious mind awoke, then you can be looking right in the eyes of a demon and not react like a human. You're looking at this motherfucker like, how long have you been here? I've been here about 30,000 years. Okay. So based on your understanding of being here for a long fucking time, how do you build wealth? Because that's what people ask for demons, right? They were like, how do I get this money, right? You think they don't have the answer? They may say, okay, well, you gotta do this. Now it's up to you whether you want to do it. But that's how that works. Again, we don't have to get too deep into that. But that's what it is. All right, we out.